Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And today's video, which is using some Picket Studios products, specifically the Sweet Summer Bellflowers stamp set, because hello, florals. I used the hydrangea image this time, and then I did watercoloring with these Picket Fence paper splatter watercolor. I've shown I have it right here, the liquid white snowflake. This one I've used a bajillion times. I just use it for literal splatter because it's fabulous. But these ones I have been experimenting with actual watercolor, and they're shimmery. They're fun. I like it. So we're going to do a bit of watercoloring, heat embossing, stenciling, all the fun things. So as always, I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video. If you expand the description box, everything's listed, linked to my blog post, everything you could need. It's all there. Always of note, all my links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That's what helps pay the bills, fund the channel, all the things. And let's get right into making these cards. So I started off by creating one of my background elements first. And for that, I have just some panels of, right now, A2 size cardstock. And I'm using the Make the World Shimmer A2 stencil, which I'm also kind of obsessed with right now. It's just pretty. And I'm using one of the Paper Glaze Velvet Pastes from the Odyssey sampler set. This is the color Cream Puff. It's just, I kind of wanted just a nice little yellow shade. I was thinking kind of almost like a sunburst, you know? So applied that over the stencil with a palette knife. And like I tend to do, I did it a second time because when I've got all the supplies out, why not make more than one? So I'll apply it with the palette knife, and then I immediately clean off my stencil, palette knife, etc. And then I just set these backgrounds aside to dry while I work on everything else. So got everything cleaned up, set those aside. And then I'm going to use my just Canson XL watercolor paper. Nothing special here. And I had all these pieces because I keep all my scraps, always. Because you never know. And this time, perfection. Because these ones were just the right size to fit this floral stamp on. So I used my anti-static powder tool on the watercolor paper. That just helps prevent the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. You do not have to heat emboss. However, having images heat embossed, it gives them kind of little bumper pads. So then I don't have to worry about one section, specifically when I'm watercoloring, one section running and smearing into the next, etc. And for my heat embossing, this time I'm using Wow embossing powder in Clear Matte Dull, which means when you melt this embossing powder, it's shiny as it melts, but the second it cools off, it turns dull, like matte. So it doesn't look like it's heat embossed. And that's just a personal preference. You can use just regular clear embossing powder. It's fine. But I really do like this matte dull embossing powder because, yeah, it literally does not look like it's embossed. And then in this specific instance with these cards, because it's dull, the shimmer of the watercolor stands out a little bit more. Again, we're kind of splitting hairs sometimes, but just trying to explain the method behind the madness. So, like I mentioned, paper splatter watercolors. I have 4 colors I'm going to use here, and I'll have them listed with the supplies, but the first one was liquid turquoise blue, and then the pink is liquid pink blossom. And I'm going to mix liquid yellow sunshine with liquid forest green to get a brighter green shade. So shake them up really well. Any liquid product that has any form of shimmer in it, the shimmer is just gravity. It's going to settle to the bottom of the jar. So I shake them up really well, and then I just put them on a little palette here. And for my watercoloring, I am using the tiniest little brush. This is a size 0 brush. Which normally I would never reach for a brush this small, but it was actually kind of perfect because this floral image isn't enormous, and the little petal areas are fairly small. So this just worked. And all I do is I wet each section. So in this case, I do one entire, bloom at once, because again, everything has been heat embossed. So I don't have to worry about things like running into the next and, just creating a hot mess, which really that's me all the time anyway. So, but add water first just to get the watercolor paper kind of wet. And that just helps everything to just move a little easier. Although I'm finding that these paper splatter watercolors, like they just blend, they just move like as is. I'm enjoying playing with them. But I apply the pink towards the centers, or like the base of the petals, and then I apply the blue around the edges, and then I wipe my brush off in between colors, and then I wipe my brush off I kind of blend them together, just how they actually look in real life, which is one of the things I love about hydrangeas. I love how the petals can be, 2, sometimes 3 different colors. It's just so fun. So I started at the top and just worked my way to the bottom. No rhyme or reason there, just doing whatever. And yeah, once I got more comfortable with it and I was like, okay, I'm liking how things are blending. Like with the subsequent flowers, I would do like multiples at a time. It's always better to kind of start slow, start with one petal or just one little flower. And then it's like, once you get a feel for it, you can start like going on and doing a little bit of multitasking. So I'm only going to show this one on camera, and then the rest I, just did on my own time without filming, because more often than not, it actually sometimes takes me longer to do things when I'm constantly having to check to even make sure that I'm in camera frame, because I still tend to drift off when I'm getting in the zone and not really paying attention. So I just worked my way down with the pink and the blue. And then for the little bit of greenery, this is where I'm going to mix the green and the yellow together just to create kind of a little bit of a brighter green. I'm still going to use that darker, the liquid forest green, like as is. Again, similar to the petals at the base of the leaves there, and then kind of mix it in with the brighter green I created by mixing the yellow. So paint that in, and then I just used it as well just to dot the little centers of the flowers. Went on and did all the other little florals, let everything dry, and then I used the coordinating wafer die to die cut all of these, just taping that wafer die into place so that doesn't shift when I run it through my die cut machine. So I got everything die cut, and originally I was going to leave my background as is, the one I stenciled on, but then I wanted to use one of the new pattern papers from Picket Fence, so I ended up just taking a circle wafer die from my stash, and I die cut this stenciled out portion from those backgrounds. So just tape that die into place, ran that through my die cut machine, and then I've got this like textured stenciled little partial circular piece. It'll make sense when I put it all together to go onto my card fronts. And then for my sentiments, I'm using the Swanky Sentiments Sympathy set. And I have a piece of black cardstock and use my anti-static powder tool on that as well. And I'm inking up and stamping the Thinking of You sentiment from that set with clear embossing ink. And just inking it up multiple times and not pressing really hard. I've talked about this in other videos. It especially comes in handy. Anything detailed, like detailed images or sentiments with lots of detail, you don't want to be like doing CPR on your stamp positioner. Just light pressure. I would rather stamp multiple times than like really be pressing down, because a lot of times that's when you will lose that detail. So I inked it up with the clear embossing ink, stamped it, used detail white embossing powder for this, coated it, melted it with my heat tool. After everything was done, I used my microfiber cloth to just remove that excess anti-static powder. And then I used the coordinating wafer dies for the sentiment to die cut these sentiments as well. And then after I had my sentiments were die cut, my florals, my little stenciled like background element, I needed to do something for the insides of the cards. So my cards are going to be top folding A2 white note cards. And I'm going to take that same floral image, and I've just put the card base into my MISTI, and then I'm going to stamp that floral image with just a light aqua ink. This is Simon's Seafoam Positively Saturated ink. So I'm going to stamp that on the inside of the card. And then after I've got that stamped onto the insides of my card bases, I'm going to take another sentiment from that Swanky Sentiments Sympathy stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that as well. And I kind of went with the more generic sort of, I'm using kind of air quotes, sentiments from this set, so that these cards could sort of be either or. They could be sympathy cards if that's what you wanted to use them for, or they could just be sort of generic thinking of you. You know, I like sometimes to have things slightly more open-ended because you never know, you know? So it's nice to have ones that could apply to different things depending on what you need a card for. So I lined up the sentiment and then stamped that with the same VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink onto the insides of these card bases. And again, just inking up the stamp more than once and just stamping it gently. Because yeah, that's if you find that, you know, something that has really fine lines or lots of details and you find that it's just, you know, looking like kind of mush, probably too much pressure when you're stamping. Ask me how I know. So, for my card bases, I am using one of the new A2 Glossy card fronts from Picket. This is the Sweet Gingham, and I just slightly trimmed the ones down that I used to be just slightly smaller than my cards. So I adhered that into place. I adhered my little stenciled piece, and then I adhered my florals. And then of course I'm going to add a little bit of baker's twine because I've just been on this kick for a while now, like using up. And this one I've almost used up. I've actually gone through multiple rolls of this stuff. So I wrapped some baker's twine around the card front, and then reverse tweezers for the wind to hold the knot in place so I can sit and fiddle and get my little bows the way I want them. And once I'm happy with that, I can pull that tight, remove the reverse tweezers, fiddle with it a little bit more, and then trim off the excess with my scissors. And then for that thinking of you sentiment, I just put some thin foam squares along the kind of the top of it because it's going to overlap that baker's twine. So got that into place. Pop that onto the card front, and then decided I couldn't resist adding a little bit of bling because these are so pretty. These are the new gem mixes in Speed of Light. So there's kind of like aqua and then some sort of rainbowy color and pink color ones. So I just dove right in there like I always do and added a few of these to the cards, adhered them into place, and that finished them off. So I'm going to turn the flashlight on my camera so you guys can kind of get an idea of like the shimmer. It's not super sparkly, these paper splatter watercolors, but they're shimmer and it's pretty. You know, it's another one of those ones where it's more when the light hits it. It's not like in your face super sparkly. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just a pretty shimmer. I really like it. So like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all of the things in the description box below the video, so you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!